banned him for 4 weeks and said his 4 weeks is already up. So they have,
Yeah. Oh, they could have suspended him and then brought him back without any change in circumstances, like Warrington did with a certain player last year.
True.
So yeah. In general, I think Salford have done a reasonable job in terms of handling the fallout of it, I would say. Moving to more positive news. So St Helens halfback anywhere back,
everything
Jack, every back. Some people would call him a king, but we'll just call him Jack Wellesby, who has signed a new 3-year deal to keep him at the Super League club until the end of the 2024 season. If anyone needed reminding, the 20-year-old scored the dramatic last-ditch winning try to give Saints victory in last year's grand final. He will forever be in his kind of any mention of his career.
But I think we're still only sat here less than 7 months on from that moment, but he's shown so far this year that it should be a stop in his a point in his career, not the thing that defines his career, because he has, if anything, pushed on from the high standards he already set himself last year.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer that they needed to tie him down to a decent contract, I think, because he's that good that other clubs might want to be offering more money to him than what Saints might have in their pockets, or other teams in other competitions might be starting looking at him because he can do everything.
Yeah, he is definitely showing himself to have the potential to be a legit superstar. So, yeah, it's a very good piece of business from Saints' point of view, and I'm sure it's quite an uplift from what it was on previously.
You would hope so.
From Jack's point of view, yeah, definitely.
So. Getting some of that Kevin Aguama money that's going to be coming available from next year, I think. Castleford Tigers have announced forward Oliver Holmes and halfback Peter Matautia have turned down new deals and will leave the club at the end of the season. Holmes, 28, has spent his entire senior career with Cass, having come through the club's academy. Matautia, who's 30, joined the Tigers from Lee in July 2018 and has made 50 Super League appearances.
So Fat by Rob, as you'd expect, has been in touch on this one. Said, not asked. Peanut has a decent game every 6 weeks or go. Next one due at Wembley, apparently. Second row is a tenner penny. If the rumours are true, we've already signed better replacements. #Coif.
I think the younger Sutcliffe's one of the potential replacements, isn't he? That seems to be the case there. And it feels like Warrington are going to have a busy week, doesn't it? With announcing these two and probably announcing George Williams as well. Matautia makes some sense in that it's unlikely Inglis will go around again. In fact, Inglis might go before not going around again. But it's unlikely Inglis will go around again, so they'll be getting a centre there who's experienced and what have you. Where does Holmes fit in at Wire? And there's a bit of speculation in this, but it's pretty much if the Sky commentary team were talking about it like it was an open secret,
yeah,
we will too.
Yeah, I don't know. It's the entire situation is a little bit kind of odd in terms of knowing where coaches are going next year and what kind of impact is Radford having on recruitment at Cass and all this kind of stuff. It's all a little bit weird. But yeah, as you say, these are slightly been open secrets type stuff. So yeah, at least it's out in the open now to a degree, even if we don't quite know where they're definitely going for next year.
Yeah, big holes to fill for Cass, but I'm sure they'll be working to recruit some younger, cheaper players.
Yep.
Hull KR have confirmed that Mikey Lewis has returned to the club following his loan spell with York, while Will Dagger has joined Featherstone on a 2-week loan deal. Dagger, who's 22, is yet to make his first appearance of the season for the Robins, joins Featherstone on a short-term loan with immediate effect. The okey-cokey of loan deals is really flowing this year, and actually there's another one to talk about.
Yeah. Salford have signed young centre Ben Davies on initial short-term loan from Saints. The 21-year-old came through the ranks at his hometown club Widnes and made his professional debut for the Vikings in the Championship in 2019. He joined Saints in 2020 and made his debut for Saints against Salford towards the end of last year.
Sheffield Eagles have confirmed the signing of back rower Evan Hodgson following his release from fellow Championship side Newcastle Thunder. The Leeds-born 22-year-old came through the ranks at Bradford before moving to the North East ahead of this year. Hodgson made 3 appearances in total for Thunder, but the club's switch to a hybrid training schedule has proved incompatible with his commitments outside of rugby. So basically, he needs to be fully part-time, and Sheffield are giving him that.
Newcastle Thunder have signed Mitch Clark on loan from Wigan and Kyle Trout from Lemieux Grizzlies. Clark, who's 28, has been limited to 2 appearances for Wigan this season, has previously played in the Championship for Bradford, Featherstone, Halifax and Leigh. Former Hull KR forward Trout has signed a permanent deal until the end of 2022 after a spell in France with Lemieux.
League One side Hunslet have bolstered their forward pack with the signing of Mikey Wood on a 12-month deal. Wood, who's 25, arrives from Championship side Newcastle Thunder and will be in contention to make his debut during the weekend's trip to London Scholars. I don't know if he did or not. Should have checked that.
No, don't know.
No.
Rochdale Hornets have confirmed the signing of Paul Braley for the remainder of the season. He announced his retirement from the sport due to work commitments, but now reunites with his former head coach, Matt Calland, at the League One club.
And League One outfit Doncaster have announced that Russ Spears has left the club. Spears, who's 30, returned for his second spell at the Keepmoat in 2017 from York after previously playing for the side between 2013 and 16. So long-serving Don out the door.
Yeah. So, in moving on to international news, Sean Wayne has added 4 players to his England train-on squad ahead of this year's Rugby League World Cup. Wakefield's Joe Westerman, I believe on this show we said not a chance, but he's earned a recall to the squad, having last represented his country in 2014. He's joined by Trinity teammate Reece Lynn, Catalan winger Tom Davies, now that's one we can't argue about, and Warrington halfback Gareth Widdop.
Mikey Wood did play at the weekend. Lee Whitnell said, I said last year that it was a strange decision not to include Widdop in the You're in My Thinking squad and that he could easily recapture his previous form. People laughed, but like the proverbial stop clock, I was right and it feels good. And David Hunter on a related news story that isn't really a full news story in its own right in a way, I suppose, but says, seems the Jackson Hastings playing for England era is over. I just hope that England have better options. What will happen though if he leads the All-Stars to a victory and dominates? So Jackson Hastings has never played for England, so the era is yet to even begin before it's apparently over. But yeah, he's been announced as co-captain, hasn't he, of the Combies and their wonderful kit that has been released for sale. But what do we make of those inclusions and the fact that and David's question about Hastings?
I'll deal with the add-ons first. I agree with 3 of them. I'll let you guess which the one that I don't agree with is. I think in terms of form, I think both Davies and Widdop have been very good so far this year. So for me, they make complete sense. I think Reece Lynn always has potential. He still has that potential to become an international player, and I'd have him around the squad. I don't disagree with the kind of a general assessment of Westerman in the sense that I don't really see him. I don't really see him making the final squad. So for me, I wouldn't have bothered, frankly. In terms of halfback, I think we've got enough reasonable options, particularly in terms of Widdop's form at the moment. I know he can blow a bit hot and cold, but I don't think we necessarily need to be experimenting with yet another player. We've got proven international quality halfbacks already, so I'm quite happy with the selection we've got, frankly.
Yeah, I think if Hastings does dominate the All-Stars game, which I think will be very difficult for him because that squad's going to be put together at very short notice with very little preparation. because they have to wait for the England squad to be announced to know how many players from each team they can pick for the combis. So it's all going to be very, like, a bit of a mismatch there and how it goes and stuff. So if they did win that game, if he did lead them to victory, if he did dominate that game, I think Sean Wayne would have to sit back and take a look, because it will mean that he'll have dominated, most likely, a pairing of Johnny Lomax and either Gale or, preferably for me, Widdop. I mean, I put Widdop in my ideal squad for the World Cup when I was drawing that up a month ago when Widdop was still on the outer. It totally makes sense that the best player in Super League in the last month is in this squad. Cup semi-final aside, he has been that. Tom Davies has been fantastic. I don't see Reece Lynn ever making the final squad, so I think there's enough of a centre options there, isn't there, that are probably ahead of him, but maybe there's injury clouds still over Gildart and Percival. That might mean a relatively experienced, now a leadership type player. I think Reece Lynn comes in. Joe Westerman will be fantastic in camp to play against the England team, because they'll do things that they'll have to think about. But I just don't see him being able to replicate that. Like, I can't imagine him being a positive overall in a game against Australia or New Zealand or Tonga in a knockout stage of a World Cup. So it seems a little strange to me. However, it would also be questioned if someone who's in the form he's in for his club side is left out, I suppose, in a way.
It does just feel like slightly like the kind of the media calls for him to be in the squad have kind of overcome any kind of sense of rational thought about his ability to as you say to contribute to a World Cup squad. So yeah, I would I'd say he's distinctly on the outer, and probably, as you say, it's more about being a good opposition in post-training sessions, I would say.
Yep. The RFL has reported a profit for the second consecutive year in 2020, despite the major disruption caused by COVID-19. The draft annual report and financial statements distributed to clubs and other council members ahead of the AGM later this month contain details of a £25,000 profit following a figure of £75,000 for 2019. This was despite the impact of the pandemic, most significantly through the cancellation of the Home Ashes series scheduled for the autumn of 2020 and the absence of spectators from the Challenge Cup final at Wembley, which was put back from July to October. The RFL weathered this storm through a combination of cost reduction and government support. Staff costs were reduced by £363,000, with RFL employees and directors taking voluntary reductions to support the sport, as many others did for their clubs, and some restructuring taking place in addition to the wages of others being supported by the coronavirus jobs retention in brackets furlough scheme. This followed a reduction of staffing costs of 27% over the previous 3 years. The RFL also worked with a government distribution loan provided to the sport, with more than 14 million of an initial loan facility of 16 million released in 2020 and an additional 16.7 million made available early this year. The accounts also acknowledge increased support from Sport England for both the Rugby League World Cup 2021 and the community game. The report also confirms the sale of Red Hall, the RFL's Leeds headquarters since 1995, for a 7-figure sum soon after the end of the period covered by these accounts. A significant boost to liquidity, but also a strategic move to a single, more modern office, more suited to a national government body as part of Sports City development in Manchester's Etihad campus. The financial statements remain subject to approval at the upcoming AGM and the subsequent signing by both the RFL board directors and RFL auditors prior to filing. So, key takeaways from that is continued huge staff cost reductions, but we don't know how much of that was through furlough, which obviously has been a lifeline to the RFL, like it will have been to many businesses over the last 12 to 14 months or so. And that the Red Hall sale isn't included in these accounts. So that will probably show us a positive on the next round of accounts, because I kind of thought maybe that's covered the gap. So what I'm thinking has covered the gap is people not asking for money back from their Ashes and Challenge Cup tickets and that sort of stuff. And what we will see is a reduction in the money